Hello again. It's another episode. We have a very interesting guest tonight. Has quite a story to tell. Very accomplished in what we like to talk about, and hopefully he can teach us a little bit of some things that we've brought up in past episodes and are eager to learn more about. But Dave Hardie joins us tonight. He has been a games athlete in the, I believe, 60 to 64.
It was 60 plus at the time.
60 plus, 60 before the CFA. Okay, it'd be 60 plus at the time. He is a level 2 trainer. You can find him as a very busy and accomplished judge now, CrossFit events, and a Hyrox athlete who I believe, we'll get into his story, won his age category in the last event that he did.
I won a couple of events, and then in the World Championship, I was the top American, but 4th overall.
There you go. So with that, we'd like to welcome Dave Hardie tonight to tell us a little bit about his journey and help us learn more about him. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk on my favorite subject. Which
yes, yeah, that's what we like to do is get on. And Jason and I would probably talk if we weren't recording, and we do, but we always have interesting folks to learn about. So awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from, athletic background. We're assuming CrossFit came into your life at some point within the last 15 years or so.
That's right.
How it got started.
Sure. So grew up in the South in Georgia. As my hometown is a small town in Georgia. Went to school at Duke University, and from there started a career in consumer products marketing. So worked for Procter & Gamble, worked for the Gallo Winery out in California. Came back and ran the cookie business for Nabisco, which was my best title of all time, which was VP of Cookies. It was great. And
did you get to bring samples home?
Yeah, I was very popular at
sure.
Every kid's school's day. And then I ran marketing for Kodak in North America back when people actually bought film and cameras, and it was a big business. And then at that point, I went into executive search, and so spent the last 20 years in finding CEOs, CFOs, CMOs, et cetera, for companies. Along the way, athletically, after college, did some triathlons for a couple of years. Never, kind of up to half Ironman length, and so my DNA was kind of in endurance sports, those kinds of slow twitch muscles, those things. Found CrossFit in 2013 after doing every version of P90X that existed. And so then went into a CrossFit gym, went through that first phase like we all do of learning the acronyms, learning the movements, studying YouTube, doing some local competitions. That was kind of first chapter of CrossFit. Second chapter of CrossFit was starting to do bigger competitions. And as you mentioned, the 2019 Games was clearly the pinnacle of my athletic story. But along the way also, Granite Games a couple of times, Masters Fitness, which is where we met. I've been there every year with the last 2 years, with last year being a judge. This year will be a judge, but before that as an athlete. And as you said, a level 2 coach. I don't coach a lot, but kind of once a week at CrossFit Humidity here in Beaufort, South Carolina.
That's along a great the way, name.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because, CrossFit Misery was taken, so we went with Humidity. But do love it there. The third chapter of my CrossFit career, if you will, is moving into judging, which I did kind of in earnest, starting with the legends at Mayhem. I think you recall that one, Jason. You won it.
Yeah, I do. I remember. Yeah.
So that was the first exposure to kind of national level, world level judging, and the people involved there, and really loved that, and knew that as an athlete, my shelf life was pretty short. I was, I am 66 now. I was, 65 at the time, and it wasn't going to be able to do this for a long time, do competing for a long time. So decided to move into judging because I do love CrossFit. I love CrossFit competitions. I want to be part of that. So that was chapter 3. And this year I will do 14 judge at 14 competitions this year. I'll spend 33 nights in a hotel or an Airbnb to do competitions. And, I love it. I'm learning a lot. I'm humbled every time I do it, but it's very cool.
That is
Dave, you're all over the map, dude. So we could dig in. We're gonna dig in on all of this stuff. And then you didn't. We sort of had this in the intro, but you have since ventured into Hyrox. So we'll circle around all that. Going back to your journey starting in 2013, and then of course being at the games in 2019. Talk about that journey. I started in 2013 as well, actually. That was the year that I started CrossFit. And then I was at the games in 2018, 2019 with you. But how did you make that transition, or when did you discover that, hey, I'm a late starter in this sport, but I got something here? What was that like?
Well, so I was already 55, so I was in the 55, 59 category, and pretty quickly learned that I had some potential to do pretty well locally, regionally kind of places. And then I immediately set my sights on, well, wow, when I turn 60, it's going to be magic. That'll be the magic year for me. And along the way, I moved from New York, where we lived, to South Carolina. That was in 2016. And what I did is I traded off an hour commute each way to work and traded that for an extra hour of sleep and an extra hour of training, and said, okay, that was the magic sauce for me to be able to step up to, higher level competitions.
Quality of life.
Did you
won?
And was 2019 the year you turned 60? Was that year you aged up and qualified?
I was 61. I missed it by one spot when I was 60. Made it as 61, so I was the oldest rookie there. And frankly, I was 11th. So they took 10 that year. I was 11th, and a guy by the name of Don Brown declined, and I was happy to take his spot. So forever I will be number 610 on my shorts.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, I was just throwing on some shorts the other day, swim shorts, and I was like, oh, I forgot I had these jammers. This is from 2018, where I was lucky number 413. So you remember your numbers, and it's very cool memorabilia to have. So you go to the games in Madison. Had you gone to the games before? Had you gone to watch, or this was all brand new?
Yeah, it was. I wish I had gone to see it before, because it was quite a spectacle, and I loved every minute there. It was probably the best. I hope my wife doesn't listen to this, but it was the best week of my life. When we went there. Thankfully, I had just done the Granite Games, and it was an experience, an exposure to warming up, sitting in a corral, going through it was kind of a mini games for me, and so it made me feel a little better about Madison.
Who were some of the competitors that you were competing with in 2019 out there? Who were your fellow athletes that you remember or that stood out to you?
Well, so Will Powell was there. He was actually still in the division below me. He had not yet turned 60, but Will and I became good friends starting there. Carl Giffray was there. Mike Brown, who we'll talk about my shoulder replacement. He led the way in the shoulder replacement category.
Oh, boy.
A whole bunch of guys really enjoyed the time with the 10, with the other 9 there.
Am I correct? Did you partner with Will in Fort Wayne?
Yes.
One year?
So,
okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so
you two were together.
Whatever, 2022, I think it was.
Oh, boy.
He and I, the first year they had teams, Will and I went and
Bingo. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's right. Have you always, or as you started the journey, were you a class guy? Did you have separate programming, or did you do class and some other extra work, or like Jason's question, where did you kind of
good point. So started out just classes. I mean, all I had was an hour at the gym, and I did classes at CrossFit Bedford Hills up in New York. When I came to Beaufort and could spend more time in the gym, started working with Comp Train, and so I was with Comp Train for a couple of years, and then for 2019 specifically, I hired a private coach, CJ DePalma of WOD Prep. And largely that was because I had just had rotator cuff surgery in the summer of 18. And so for me to recover and make a run at the games, I knew I needed a one-on-one, and he happens to be a physical therapist. So
he understood.
He was my one-on-one coach, remote coach.
Remote coach. Okay. All right. And so you found that to be a formula that worked for you, given, laying out what your goals were, what your recovery was like from the rotator cuff, and obviously the formula that was laid out worked well.
Absolutely.
Moving on and making your transition. So, there's a little bit of a gap between the games and, really the Legends Championship at Mayhem, which was 2022, I believe.
Yeah.
Fill in that time frame. What led you to that transition? How'd that happen?
Sure. So continued to compete, tried to make a run for the games in the year after, 2020, I guess, which of course was the year that was canceled.
Yeah, canceled.
In 2021, I was kind of always on the cusp of 20 something after the age group qualifier or the semifinal. So if they were taking 20, I was always 23rd or whatever. And then, went to Masters Fitness Championship, starting the beginning, and that's where Rick and I met at the 2020 Masters Fitness Championship. So loved events like that, one step down from the games. In 2021, I had surgery on my right arm, bicep tendinosis, to clean it out, and the surgeon came back when I woke up and said, "Hey, good news, your rotator cuff looks great. The bad news is you got no cartilage left. You're bone on bone. We can't fix that, so you've got a limited runway, and then you're going to have a shoulder replacement." So recovered from that, kind of held myself together with shots of cortisone, but that's not a long-term solution.
Right.
And again, kind of was, kind of trying to make the games, not quite getting there up until kind of making the commitment to do judging.
Yeah, realizing that the shoulder was holding you back.
Yeah, I want to get to judging, but I'm curious, just because I think there's a lot of people that listen that are on that cusp, right? And it's always curious. I imagine on endurance events, given that you had a little bit of triathlon in your background, and knowing that you have Hyrox in your future, that there's some fit there, that I imagine that you excelled in those long endurance type workouts, and that there were other workouts or other elements that gave you trouble.
You think?
Talk about
that. As an example, I won the Ruck Games in 2000, the Ruck event in 2019, the Ruck Run.
Oh, yes.
By almost 2 minutes. I mean, it was stupid. My coach is yelling at me to slow down when we did that third lap with the Ruck.
Yeah.
I was really good at that stuff, and then I'd be last on the max overhead squat. So, endurance, engine, body weight stuff was great for me. Heavy barbell, not so much. So I was frequently, a competition would start with a 1 rep max lift, and then I'd try to climb my way up from the bottom of the leaderboard.
I've been there.
We've been there. I think you're talking to the right audience. We've been there. Like, hey, I know I'm going to take a hit on this event, so let's just crush everything else.
Yeah.
And in 2019, during that the Ruck event, I thought I was competing with 2 other guys, but there was someone in our age group like you that was so far ahead that we didn't even know he existed. I ended up beating the other 2 guys I was competing with. We were back and forth, and then the last lap I broke ahead. And as I'm running across the field, I'm thinking that I won the event, but we didn't know that someone like you in our age division, Rickard Vint, had already showered and was done taking a nap before we finished the event. He was like you, minutes ahead. It was just silliness, but yeah, that's fun, and it's fun to think. I've always heard that those that had a bit of an endurance background, that translates into CrossFit really well. At least that part translates over. And of course, I had a little bit of running endurance background coming into CrossFit, and everything else took a ton of work to develop. And I'm sure you experienced that as well. It was just, you came in, you're like, okay, I can breathe hard. I know how to do this.
Right.
But this barbell is technical and ridiculous. And it's not that easy to teach old dogs new tricks like us. I mean, it takes us a little while to be able to even get an overhead squat, like you said. I remember watching someone do an overhead squat like in 2013 when I started. I was like, I am never, ever going to be able to do that. I mean, I can't do that with a PVC pipe. I'm never doing that with a barbell.
Yeah. And now look at you. Well, as an example, I tell people my best advice for handstand walking is start learning before you're 60, because that sucks.
It's tough. Yeah. Well, not coming from a gymnastics background, I know Jason has that. I don't. And you're telling yourself, I need to go upside down, and there's not going to be a wall there to catch me. I mean, when you're learning that, first off, it's unsettling if you haven't done that all of your life.
I do like that advice. I think that advice to all athletes: learn it before you're 60. Like learn a new language before you're 10. It's easier, and learn how to handstand walk before you're 60. I think it's a great phrase. Rick, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh no. I was going to ask as you were working with, as you called it, limited time.
Yeah.
Did the shoulder give you more and more problems as you got closer, and you just kind of said, okay, I need to do something now?
I remember at the end of the semifinals in 2023, so last year, as soon as I was done with that, I said, okay, now it's time to stop with the, every 3 months I was getting a cortisone injection. Now it's time to stop with that and just take the plunge and get the thing replaced. Okay. And so I did that basically Labor Day of last year, so September 5th of 2023. Got it replaced.
So you were 3-4 weeks out post-surgery when you were judging us at MFC. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I didn't tell the surgeon I was going to make the trip to Fort Wayne. I didn't think they wanted me to, but did not give me any lip with that event. Because there I am with my poor little sling on.
Jason, I will tell you, I was no-repped by Mr. Dave here a couple of times on my overhead squats, and Lon's my partner, and he's standing next to me, and he doesn't say a word, and I think, Dave, you just said lower, and I was like, okay, yes, I will be lower, but I distinctly remember you had no problem saying that with clipboard in one hand and arm in the sling. So
dude, I had no reps. Games athletes, scaled athletes, and a guy with no legs. So I'm going straight to hell for that one.
I love it. Judging standards. And speaking of, now with the advent of that association, is it the AF Association of Professional Judges, AFJ? Are you a member? Do they encourage membership so that they can have critical mass at these type of what's your familiarity with that? I suppose I should ask.
I like those guys a lot. I am a early member there. I am hopeful that they accomplish what they want to accomplish. Right. If you think about, they use the term, professionalizing judging, but wouldn't it be nice if you went into an event knowing that your judge had gone through some specialized training and had been peer reviewed for their performance in prior events? Correct. So, that's, I think, what we're trying to get to. And if along the way they start to get us some coverage of travel expenses, that'd be awesome. But I think it's really about the quality of judging is what we're trying to get done. So, I like those guys a lot.
And are you, when you've said how many nights or how many competitions you have coming up or will do in 2024, are some of those with do you get assigned or do you volunteer for, say, I can make this event, and then they'll say, okay.
Well, look, there are some where you have to be accepted. You apply for it, so I'll be judging, be one of the judges, hopefully a lead judge at Birmingham for the Masters Games. I'm going to do the Adaptive Games. And so those are through, people who are part of the AFJ. It's not that I'm assigned by the AFJ, but some of those people, you work with people at one event and then they say, when you say, I'd like to work this next one, they say, great, come on.
We have a roster. Yep. Yeah. Let's use the roster. I like that. We all, I think, are very supportive of professionalizing the process. And I think what was this is my opinion, what I think was a little unfair. Some probably pretty high quality folks were hired by those camps during quarterfinals, I believe, for the individuals. And then the whole no rep with the box step ups or all that type of stuff spilled out. And some of the pictures and the videos that were shown out there, we recognize those people. I'm like, oh yeah, I know who those are. I might not know names, but boy, those are faces that I recognize. And it was a little unfair that was on them because of what I think we're trying to accomplish. And I hope it's just a bump in the road, and it's not something that turns off a large group of people that are willing to volunteer their time and their time, money, effort to go to these events, because without judging, you can't run the event. You're not self-judging.
Yeah, that's well said, Rick. I mean, sometimes I don't know why any of us do it, because there's no upside. It's just the downside of, the upside is actually being around competitions, being around amazing athletes and being part of that. But the downside is, I know the guy very well who was in the Paige Powers videos, and I just feel so bad for him, because he's an amazing judge, but just that particular standard slipped.
Well, now we have Chad in the games here coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And I've seen some videos on Instagram that don't look very promising for that. So maybe they'll make it step overs, and then we won't have to worry.
Exactly. That
would be something else out there. Actually.
Oh,
yeah, make it easy.
But getting back to you, you are going to be a busy man here for certainly the balance of 2024 with judging. So we're looking forward to our paths crossing.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys for sure.
Again.
Dave, when you're sleeping in a hotel 33 nights a year, and you're judging these events, and knowing that it is primarily volunteer work, right? I mean, this is a huge financial. I don't know. It's a huge financial chunk to do this. It definitely shows your passion for that. But of course, I mean, the question is, why? I mean, why do you do it? Why put yourself in that position? Yeah. And I mean this in all the positive light. I mean, we do crazy things. We train for hours. We sacrifice all kinds of things to be able to do something that it's not like we're paid like games athletes. We're doing this hobby that we love, and we spend a ton of money as well to torture ourselves in competition.
Out of our own pocket. Yep, like everybody.
Out of our own pocket. You do the same thing to come and judge us doing these things, but what's your passion around that? Why? What got you into it? Why?
Yeah, so I'm spending my kids' inheritance on judging and Hyrox.
Done.
So
that's right.
And I retired in January, which makes it easier.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you. Look, it's as I said, some of my fondest memories were around being part of CrossFit competitions. I loved being there. And so if we can play some part in making them successful, I think that's why we all do it. Now, and to be clear, some of my judge friends, for example, did the semifinals in France, California, and Tennessee this year. And so I'm like, how do you have the money and time to do that? So
holy cow.
I'm certainly not the biggest investor in this whole thing.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, that's
Dave, do you have any fun stories for us from judging? Do you have something that stands out? You don't have to say names of athletes or anything like that, but any unique stories, any gossip that you can share with us about being a judge?
Well, there's Rick Stevenson and his squad captain.
I mean, look, we could have all called that. Okay, I could have called that from across the room, just to make sure. Next time I'm going to yell it out. I'm going to yell no rep for fun.
Jace will be watching me from the stands and he'll yell it out. How do you think that'll make me feel?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I can make it through online.
My first year at Wadapalooza, I've judged there a couple of years and judged at Bayside, which is the barge, right? So there was a night workout with the elites, and it was a team workout, and we had 2 judges in each lane. And my job was to watch the assault runner while the 4 guys, or 3 guys, I guess it was, whatever, went through, did their however 1,000 meters they needed to run. So that was a really exciting job. So I'm doing that. And it happened to be the team with BKG. And so his team finishes, and I click my stopwatch because that's like time we needed to record. But instead of hitting stop, I hit the pause and wrote down the number and said, I'm just going to let my stopwatch keep running. So he goes running off to do his swim. And my partner judge is in the lane, and he's there to wait for them to come back from the swim and do their squats. They were finishing up with D-ball squats or something like that. So BKG comes out of the water, running back to our lane, and somehow runs right by my partner judge, who doesn't see him, and runs in there, and he's ready to start doing his lunges. I'm yelling at my partner judge, come here. He can't hear me because it is so loud at Wadapalooza.
Absolutely.
Well, crap. I got down there on my knee and started, judging his squats, and was lucky I still had my stopwatch going because he got done and I clicked it. And so kind of saved the workout for them. So that's my big claim to fame.
You can't get much higher level than a BKG team down there too.
Yeah. That's
or the Canadians.
The things about Wadapalooza is you see all, the whole gamut. That's where I no rep the guy with no legs is at Wadapalooza. So you have a whole gamut there. But yeah, when the elites come out, it's a special thing.
I would imagine you're worked pretty hard. I know they seem to have an army of volunteers, both actual volunteers and judges, but I would imagine the pace and the cadence of your schedule over the course of a long weekend event like Wadapalooza is pretty in.
Yeah. Wadapalooza is probably the easiest because you have so many people who like to go to Wadapalooza and judge.
Okay.
But for example, at Legends or any other place, a Masters Fitness Championship, my number one learning coming from competing to judging is, oh my God, these guys work so hard. The judges work so hard. I mean, you'll have a couple of heats, 2 or 3 heats a day, and you're done. And I once judged the same workout 23 times in 5 hours, and it's a different kind of
concentration.
It's a different kind of hard.
I would.
Do you have a lane preference?
But it's good. Well, I love to be in the 3, 4, 5, the middle lanes, and have the top people.
Okay, so we've got some judging in your history and your resume at the games. Talk about your transition to Hyrox, and
Sure.
you actually crossed the ocean and went to Worlds. So tell us that story. And the reason I'm curious is I think about a couple of my friends that are athletes that are considering Hyrox because they have some shoulder issues or they have some issues with their body, and moving a barbell may be less advantageous, but Hyrox does have a lot of CrossFit movements built into it that are great for guys like you. But yeah.
Sure. So at the end of the semifinals of 2023, I was deciding, okay, I'm going to go get my shoulder replaced. So CrossFit's on hold, may never come back, may never be able to do that again. And a buddy of mine, Ivan Blumberg, who's at the games coming up, he'll be in Birmingham in the 65 plus division. He said, have you heard of this thing called Hyrox? And at the time I really hadn't, but he said, it's perfect for you. And once I looked into it, I was like, yeah, I thought I was going to go back into triathlons, by the way. So I said, well, I can't do CrossFit. I'm going to do triathlons. And then so I started riding my bike and had an accident on my bike. I said, this is a good way to kill myself. I started looking at Hyrox and said, I'm going to give this a try. So I started training for a month or so before my replacement surgery. And then as soon as I could come back, I said, okay, I'm all in on Hyrox now. And so our gym, Humidity, is the second Hyrox affiliate in the state of South Carolina. We're fundamentally CrossFit, but we also have Hyrox. I started, as soon as I could do anything after the shoulder surgery, was doing Hyrox, hired a coach, and all in. So Fort Lauderdale, Hyrox Fort Lauderdale in February. So my goal was to make it to the World Championship, and to do that, you have to win a race. And so I said, well, I'm going to go down and do Fort Lauderdale. I'm sure I won't win that one, but then I'll do another one. I signed up for Houston, and then maybe if I need to, I'll go to Anaheim because I got to get a win so I can go to the Worlds in Nice. Went down to Fort Lauderdale. I was kind of hoping, to be honest with you, that I might be the only 65, 69-year-old. So I just went and go ahead. But I got down there and realized I wasn't the only one. There were 3 of us, and one of them was the reigning world champion.
Whoa.
In my division. So I said, oh, crap. But then I won.
Wow.
Congratulations. Then I won. I was like, okay, well, I've got Nice checked off, but then still did Houston because you get better as you do a second race or a third race. And so I got a lot better in my second race.
More familiar.
For those that don't know, Hyrox is, if CrossFit is the known and the unknowable, Hyrox is the knowable. You can train because you know exactly what the race is. So tell us exactly what the race that you completed is, and then tell us your time.
That's a very good point. CrossFit is work across broad time and modal domains. Well, in Hyrox, we have a very narrow modal domain, and we have only one time domain, which is long. So we do a lot of work in one time domain and in a limited modal domain. So Hyrox started in Germany in 2017. It's huge in Europe, getting bigger here in the States. It's 8 1,000-meter runs. After each run, you do a fitness station. And you know exactly what those fitness stations are because every race is the same. And one thing, you can compare times from one event to the other. But anyway, you do a ski erg for 1,000 meters in Station 1. Station 2 is a sled push for 50 meters. Station 3 is a sled pull at a lighter sled for 50 meters. Station 4 is the burpee broad jumps, which is the worst of all of them.
Yuck.
That's for 200 meters. And then that's 80 meters. And then fifth one is rowing, 1,000 meters. Sixth one is farmer's carry with a couple of kettlebells. Seventh one is lunges with a sandbag on your shoulder. And then the last one is 100 wall balls, which absolutely sucks.
100 wall balls at the end after you've already run 7,000 meters, right? Knowing that you still have 1,000 to go.
Yeah, well, you've finished the 8,000 meters.
You've finished the 8,000.
Yeah, I wish it ended on a run because I'd like that better. But it ends on the wall balls, and then you're staggered to the finish line, and they use a chip, much like at the games. So, you have specifics on every one of your stations and how you did compared to everybody else, and so you can really look at your strengths and your weaknesses. Anyway, first race was an hour and 25. My second race was an hour and 21, which was there were 3 guys who've ever done a race in my division who've ever done a race faster than that. Unfortunately, all 3 of them were at Nice and beat me at Nice. So I'm right now number 4 when it comes to Hyrox.
That's pretty incredible.
It's been fun, and hopefully there's room to improve.
So I'm doing the Hyrox in Dallas in November. So my questions for you are, it appears that Dallas will be the largest race so far with either 6,000 or 8,000 attendees, something like that.
The largest in the U.S.
In the U.S.
London has 12,000.
Okay. Oof. How in the world do they get that amount of athletes through this race in a day? How does that work?
So I'm going to do Dallas as well. It will amaze you because, in a CrossFit event, there's a heat and then there's a little bit of downtime while you change over. And then there's another heat and then some changeover. Here it is constant. Every 10 minutes, a new group is coming out of the starting gates, starting to run around the venue. Meanwhile, athletes from other heats are running around the venue. And meanwhile, athletes are out doing each of those 8 fitness stations as they finish up their race. So it's a constant flow of people starting, people finishing, people in the middle, and somehow they keep that going for all day long.
From 7 a.m. till dark, something like that.
So
it's an amazing experience.
When I pick up a sandbag, it's likely that 1,000 people may have used the sandbag prior to me in that moment. So I just have to turn off my germophobia and just let that go.
Last week.
I
heard you talk about that last week. That is the last thing to worry about.
Okay.
First, are you doing pro or are you doing open? Are you going to do pro weights or open weights?
Yeah, I'm going to do pro weights. Yeah, I want to go. I want to try to qualify.
You should, by the way. Yeah, and last year in Houston, in my race in Houston, there were only 3 guys in your age group who did pro and 25 guys who did open. And the difference is 5 of the stations are heavier. Obviously, a skier is a skier, but
and a row is a row.
The sled push is heavier, the sled pull is heavier, the carry is heavier, the wall balls are heavier, but they're 20 pounds, so you're used to that. So you don't worry about the sandbag on your shoulder, but do carry some chalk in your pocket, a little piece of chalk in your pocket. I did that for the first time in Nice. It was a game changer. What I did learn in Nice is that I also need to have a second one in a little plastic bag because by the end of the race, the first one is just so sweat soaked it's useless. But yeah, do carry some chalk. They do have it out there, but you're not guaranteed that it will actually be there when you want it.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
So high conditioning levels for an hour and a half of work, of constant movement. Maybe not all of that's running, but a good majority of that is running. So
yeah, it's probably 60%.
60% running.
Running's 60% of the race. Yeah, like I said, our time domain is quite different than CrossFit. I mean, it's unusual now for me to have a workdown that's under an hour. Whereas that was,
interesting.
On occasion in CrossFit, you might go on.
And Dave,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I've done half Ironmans, so those are 5-hour races, and you're gonna eat and hydrate. You're very cognizant of refueling during a race like that. When you're thinking an hour to an hour and a half, I mean somewhere in that range. Yeah. Are we hydrating? Are we trying to fuel at all during that time, or I'm a new guy at this.
Yeah, my approach is bring a gel with you, a gel, and I have it after the row. So after the row station on the way out, I'll do the goo gel and grab a glass of water because those things are terrible unless you wash them down. But there are water stations going in and out of the run, and so in Nice it was so hot and humid that I took a lot of water. But usually it's like just the one to get that down and then dump it on your head and keep going.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. I'm so excited for the race. I mean, I booked it on a whim, just thinking like, before it sells out, I thought it would sell out more quickly, and I wanted to get on there. And then, Dave, you mentioned that your gym is an affiliate. I looked into just this idea that, if I'm doing this, there could be quite a few CrossFitters that want to try new sports. That's one of the parts of being in CrossFit is to try new things.
Learn and play
although
new
this
sports.
has a lot of carryover from what we do. I was really curious about coaching, so I went ahead and signed up as a coach, going through their training to become a Hyrox coach, just to have I want the best source of information. Like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do anything half-ass. So after the games, the focus is, of course, to do some competitions in September, maybe even a competition in October. But I'm going to be logging some time running and moving heavy sleds, pulling heavy sleds, and getting myself ready for this. Because I think it's, as an off season, it's really fun. And then a month after that, we'll probably see you at Legends, because I'm sure you'll be judging Legends when that time comes, right?
That is the plan. Yeah, I can hook you up with my coach, the Irish fitness guy, if you want, for some programming. But you will spend a lot of time running just as you prep for that. And then, things like sled pushes, you'll be fine on all that stuff, but might as well get some experience with it.
Practice.
Yes. I've been pushing a sled in the gym lately to get a feel for the heavy sled. And a sled push is really determined by the surface that you're pushing it on. Right.
Yep.
And so we're loading up the sled that we have in the gym, pushing it, rubber on rubber. And oh my gosh, running into a sled push is the biggest leg burn of all time. It's delicious. It's delightful. I love it, but it's really awful too.
The run after the sled push is the worst run. Your weight's going to be 445 pounds, but as you said, it's all dependent on the surface that you're on. And the carpet at the Hyrox events is notoriously sticky. It won't be as bad as rubber on rubber, but you should train as heavy as possible.
Yes, and I mean, we've pushed sleds at the games, and I'll just tell you, like, the alpaca sled at the games does not move. It doesn't matter what you put on it, it does not go. And so when you see athletes out there just dying, it's because the sled doesn't move. It's just not meant to move. Well, Dave, you're coming out
the back
to...
of the sled is always tilted up.
Yes. I mean, sleds are just the worst that way. Dave, tell us about the remaining part of your 2024. What does the rest of your year look like?
Sure. So this coming weekend, I'm head judge of a small, it's a decent sized partner competition in Charleston. So I'll go do that. After that, there's a partner competition in Greenwood, South Carolina called Freedom Games, so I don't like doing, this sounds worse than I mean it, but I don't like doing local events anymore unless I'm a head judge. But the Freedom Games in Greenwood is such a special cause and such a great event that I go out. If they'll let me just carry the water there, I'll go do it. So the Freedom Games is next. And then after that, it's the Masters Games in Birmingham. And then the Adaptive Games are like 2 weeks after that in San Antonio. And then the week after that is Masters Fitness Championship in Fort Wayne. Crash Crucible, which we talked about, is in October. Got to figure out a way to get in the Hyrox Dallas on the 23rd of November. And then Legends in December. So those are kinds of the ones that are on the plate for the rest of the...
I was going to say your to-do list around the house is subject to the weekends that you are around, you are home. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
You sound passionate about Hyrox, and is that something that you will continue to pursue? Finding ways to squeeze efficiencies out of your performance. As you said, you want to drop the times, continue training and things like that.
A couple of things. Number one, I'm better at Hyrox than I ever was at CrossFit. So, it's why not pursue that if I can. Number two, the CrossFit competition door kind of closed for me with the shoulder replacement. The mobility, I couldn't meet standards today with my mobility, and the strength is just still not back 9 months after the surgery. So, and I'm aging out, I really think there's going to be a 70 plus division, even though they're trying it this year. Whereas Hyrox has up to 85 plus division. So
that's awesome.
Wow.
That's great.
It takes like 3 hours for any of them to do it. But so I don't think I'll be doing it when I'm 85, but at least, and trust me, I'm not like, oh, please hurry up and get to 70, but at least there's a new division.
Sure.
Horizon.
See?
So yeah, I'm pretty passionate about it. Now it gets a little, look, it's not as interesting as CrossFit. You don't have as many things to work on, but the training, at least to date, has been pretty interesting. And we don't just do those things. If I do a strength day, it's going to be stuff that's not just pushing a sled. I'm startled by how many different ways my coach can ask me to do these threshold running days. So it's all interesting.
And it is interesting. There's a similarity to CrossFit in the sense that you don't only get a better back squat by doing back squats. You do other things to improve your back squat. And the same thing with Hyrox. You don't only get good at a ski erg by pulling on the ski erg, although that's very efficient. You could do other things to build your capacity in all of the areas. I've cracked open the 12-week prep that Hyrox gives out to coaches, and I glanced at it. I was like, oh, these are good. I like these. I'm gonna take some of these, and Boulder athletes are gonna do some of these just because there's really great endurance work in there. And again, a lot of them look a lot like CrossFit in ways, and I like their approach. But they are, and I also love the idea that they're training for something that I think that's kind of fun. There's something unique and fun about that. Even though I'm not abandoning the unknowable, I'm more than happy to keep training for mystery workouts that are coming.
And I think you should. I mean, I think anybody who's good at CrossFit, I think CrossFit is a better way to be fit, but I think Hyrox is a fun sideline should be. It's a fun experiment for everyone.
Well, and popularity, we get the feeling that the sport of Hyrox is growing pretty quickly.
It's exploding.
Yes, I was going to say. So, I'd rather have a couple of very fast-growing sports than more people sitting on a couch doing nothing.
Yeah,
and I think there's way too much of that in this country. So, get up, do something, and if it doesn't matter if it's everybody's going to win there. So that's great. So you're going to be busy, and we're going to see you in a number of different times as we move towards the end of the summer and into the fall.
Yeah, next up Birmingham.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm very much looking forward to all of these. Where can people find you? I know you're on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram is at Hardie Dave.
Hardie Dave. And if they're watching the YouTube version on Jason's channel, they'll see you and they'll recognize you and be like, "That's Dave." Yes,
they totally will recognize you. Yeah,
I see him all over the place now.
Or they'll say, "That looks like Chris Henshaw," but somehow
totally. We're fine with that too. Take it and run with it. It's fine. Maybe I even title this.
One person in Nice come up to me, "Chris, you're here." I actually have my name right here on my shirt.
He was at MFC last year. Did you get a picture together with him?
I did. Yeah, I got a picture with him finally.
That's awesome. That is great.
I just pulled your Instagram up on my phone. I got to tell you, this picture, this looks like a 19-year-old flexing his muscles at the Hyrox event. You look great. I mean, if any of us can look this good at 66, kudos.
Thank you.
And well done. That's a really cool picture. You look dead tired. It looks like I hope you look like you did the event already in this.
Oh yeah, that's the photo at the end. They do take one of you at the end.
If that was before the workout, you were hyped. You were ready to go.
That's a pre-workout right there.
Pretty beat there. But nice to see that.
Dave, thank you so much, man, for your time. It was really, really great to get to know you, and we'll be seeing you in Birmingham and at all the competitions coming up.
See you soon, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older.